when I came into the Deal Fellowship, I had been working on the Dream Project for about 4 years, I think, maybe five. However, I was a volunteer. All of our team was. I had another full-time job that was remote and nationally based. And so a lot of my attention was looking at national politics and running distributed campaigns across the country and these sorts of things. And Deal came at a really important moment for us when we were sort of trying to step more fully into Dream of Detroit's work. And it just opened up this incredible sort of, again, just kind of network of folks who, we may have seen their work or, may have engaged with it on the periphery. But, on a personal level, it just came at a time where I needed to start building those relationships much more thoroughly. And Deal was a real launch pad for that. And then each year, as the cohorts have continued, by virtue of Deal being really intentional about bringing all the cohorts together on a regular basis, that network has also expanded for me. But I remember just in that moment feeling like, wow, this was kind of a breakthrough for me. These are the folks that I need to be in community with right now. These are the folks I need to be in conversation with while we try to move this work forward. And so I always kind of credit Deal with being kind of that first big step into sort of stepping, because we had a very targeted impact area on the west side, literally like 10 blocks. I'm walking from my office to our office, from my house to our office 300 feet away. And most days, like that's my experience. And then what I was seeing nationally. And then there was a lot in the middle, across the rest of the city and then regionally that I was missing. And Deal really, like I said, opened up the door for that for me. So I'm always, really grateful for that experience on a personal level. Deal really provided a network of incredible mentors and partners across the city that I've personally been able to learn from, and that as an organization we've been able to work with. And so, when I think about, people like Mama Lila Cabell, may God rest her, I constantly refer to her comments about what it means to come into community, especially when in the course of our community development work and, efforts to recruit new people to the neighborhood and so forth, and really making sure that people are coming in with the right spirit, the right respect for our neighbors and for the history of our neighborhood. And so I always try to reference her in that regard whenever I can. People like Professor Hammer, who I consider kind of one of my voices of conscience in the city. And, Professor Hammer is one of the most critical voices that I know. And, so I find myself at times turning to him to say, what did you think of this report? Or what did you think of this news? And, he's always got an incisive perspective that I feel like helps to keep me grounded and to keep me, keep my mind open to the true reality of things. The partnerships have been amazing as well. I had the pleasure of being in the cohort with Namira Anani, who's now on our Dream board, actually. I had the pleasure of being in the cohort with Amanda Alexander. About 3 years ago, Amanda invited me onto the DJC board, actually. And Dream is actually a client partner of DJC's as well. And I credit a lot of that to, getting to know each other a bit during Deal and becoming familiar with each other's work. So in that regard, Deal has been incredibly helpful. It's also been a resource that I've turned to kind of time and again for our organization. And so right now, our deputy director is finishing the fellowship. And I think it's been really valuable for him on both an individual level and as well as, how he shows up in our work, in our neighborhood, and in our organization. And I hope to be able to send, more of our staff through Deal in the future for, both the sort of leadership development that it provides, but also the kind of level of political education that they receive. And again, sustaining those partnerships that it opens up. I'd recommend Deal because I think that sustaining and growing the sort of well-coordinated and networked group of folks who are working on sort of long-term racial equity issues in the city is important for us as a movement. And I think Deal has become a really vital sort of movement resource for organizations in Detroit. I'd also recommend it for the personal development that it provides, the sort of introspection that it causes, the level of of sort of self-exploration that one has to go through being in relation with other folks who are in the fellowship, as well as, under the guidance of the folks who run the fellowship, who I've always found to be a really sort of responsive group of folks. I see Deal as sort of quintessential is a strong word, but kind of a quintessential learning organization, an organization that, in my experience, is kind of always exploring what did we do last time? And is it what we need to do next time? Or how do we need to change or adapt the organization to make sure that we're meeting the needs of sort of today's emerging leaders and folks working in this space? So in that regard, I don't think that Deal ever really gets stale. I think that, it's kind of always what folks need in that moment, or at least is striving to be, and then learning from the feedback that it's getting from the participants. In terms of going forward, for me, Deal has sort of built a level of trust that I feel confident saying I know it's going to continue being responsive to the needs of folks in this movement, the racial justice and equity movement in the city. And that, if the fellowship needs to look like this one year, then that's what it'll be. And if it needs to look like that the next year, then that's what it'll be. And so again, I think it's just incredibly well run. And for that reason, looking forward to seeing it continue to thrive in the future.